And then today we're talking about how to sew pretty fast. For those who know me, I'm a very fast person when it comes to sewing, and students have seen that, people around me, they've seen me do that, and I often get asked this question: how do you do it? How do you sew effortlessly? You make it look like it's nothing. You make it look like it's just playing around with a sewing machine. When you ask me how do I sew fast, how to sew fast, I won't say it's really difficult. It's a very simple thing you can achieve. It's a very, very simple thing you can do as well. I can do probably a jacket, a kimono jacket, or a top in 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm very, very fast when it comes to sewing. It didn't just start like that. It started somehow. And you can as well do that. In this video, I'll be putting you through the steps on how to get this done, on how to be a very fast person when it comes to sewing. This helps you as a startup, because as a startup, you don't have enough capital to hire staff, to hire people to work for you already, except you are the kind of startup who is going to hire and you don't want to sew. But for so many startups, they've learned how to sew and they want to start sewing immediately, and definitely they do not have enough capital to hire people to work with them. So to you, this applies to you. And even if you have staff and you have the knowledge of sewing, I believe it's time you work on your sewing speed, you work on your sewing speed skills, so that you can also achieve a lot. One thing I've noticed is when your staff see that you work fast, that you're also very hardworking, it makes them hardworking, because they have this mentality that, oh, if I don't get this done, I may not get paid, and this woman or this man will get his or her work done themselves. So we need to buckle up and do the necessary, the needful. I'm going to put you through what has helped me, how I started, how I gained my speed skills, and how I've been doing it so far in my past years of sewing. Back to that big question that I get asked all the time: how did you start learning how to sew with speed? How do you do it? There's a magic to it, so you just gained. Well, I say I started this way. It started from the beginning. That is the first answer to the question. How did it start? It started from the very, very beginning. I say this to my students when they tell me, oh, Auntie, you're fast because you've been doing this all the while, or you're fast because you have spent so many years sewing. And I always tell them the reply: I started like this. I started learning with speed. I started speed sewing from the beginning. I learned it, I mastered it, and it became a part of me, huge part of me. Number one step to know how to sew, to learn how you sew with speed, how to speed sew, is know what you want to sew before you start cutting out. Okay, I've realized that most of the time gets wasted on that cutting table. The moment you get to the cutting table, and that's the place where you start thinking of the styles to cut, you have started wasting your time. Believe it, take it or leave it. If you get to your cutting table, and that's when you start thinking, oh, I don't think I want to make a dress again. Maybe I should just make a skirt and blouse. Oh, I think it should be row and blouse. I think it should be wrapper. Or can I do shorts? You have started wasting time. Because most likely, this habit will take you back to checking online for styles, try to combine things, and before you know what is happening, if you're the type that looks for inspiration on Instagram, which is a good thing to do, I'm not condemned, I do it as well, or Pinterest, you look for style inspiration on social media, what happens is, from one post you get led to another post. Before you know what's going on, you have wasted about 1 hour. You didn't even think you've wasted it, because to you, you're investing in researching, but that is a lot of time that has been used for, not genuinely for what you wanted to use it for, but for some other things that came up on the way while you were looking for styles. So the best thing is, if you want to sew a style, sit down, decide on what you want to do before you go to the cutting table. The moment you get to the cutting table, the mission is, I am here to cut. Tell it to yourself all the time. You are here to cut, not to check styles, not to browse, not to research social media. Once you understand that your time gets important to you, remember, time na money. Time is money. Time is very, very expensive. Time should not be wasted. Time should not be used anyhow. Value your time very well. It gives you, because the more you can work per hour, let me say you're working for 8 hours a day, the more things you can accomplish in 8 hours, definitely the more money you make, the more money you achieve. You can sketch somehow. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the perfect, you're not submitting your sketch for a competition. If you want to submit your sketch for a competition now, okay, you can go ahead. But if it's just a sketch that you want to use personally, start somehow. Later you can upgrade your skills on sketching, but don't say I cannot sketch. Whatever you sketch, you understand what you have sketched, and that will guide you through. Okay, I'm putting this sleeve on this, I'm putting this zipper here, I'm putting this on this is not going to have that. Sketch it, analyze it. Perfect or not, do that. Now when you do that, combine all these styles on paper. I mean, combine the styles, I mean, sometimes you're going to pick a sleeve from one idea, you're going to pick the neckline from another idea, you're going to pick the tail of the dress from one idea, you're going to pick the bodice from another idea. Combine the styles together. Decide that I'm working on styles, 5 styles, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to bring one style out. Decide, put it together. If it's going to be on your phone, you're going to match the pictures together on a grid, match them together, so that when you're cutting, that is the only thing you're looking at, not looking around for, let me check another sleeve, I think I should have another idea. That's another, you remember, you're going to start wasting your time with that. So that's number one. Number one, remember, know what you want to do before you start cutting. That will help you value your time well. Number two is start cutting immediately you get to your cutting table. Don't get there. I said it earlier, it's not the time to think. It's not the time to think about the styles. Start cutting immediately. Like I said, immediately you get to your cutting table, lay your cloth on the table, your fabrics on the table, get your scissors, get your chalk, your tailor's chalk, or whatever your marking tool. If it's chalk, if it's pen or whatever, please do not use pencil or pen. Let me just chip that in. I've seen people use pencils and pen to mark clothes. It's not right. It's not good. There are tailor's pencils, there are disappearing pencils, there are tailor's chalk. That's the appropriate thing to use. When you use pen, these marks do not leave the cloth. They hardly do. Even pencils, some pencils are so dark they don't leave, and by the time you're steam ironing, they spill over, the lead inside spills over. So please stick to using tailor's chalk, any kind of tailor's chalk or disappearing pen or tailor's pen or tailor's pencil that you use. What is meant for fabric is what you should use for fabric. Please remember that all the time. So like I said earlier, number one is know what you want to cut before you start cutting out. Number two is the moment you get to the cutting table, the mission is I am here to cut. Always say that to yourself all the time. The number three step that has helped me is, I call this the golden rule of sewing. Measure twice, cut once. Measure, be sure you've gotten your measurements ready, and if you're lucky you have your patterns you're working with. I mean, prepared patterns. I mean, you could, I have a number of prepared patterns I work with. There's some styles that are very general, so you can have them ready, maybe for pencil skirts, for bodices, for bustiers, for corsets. They just make your sewing easier, you're cutting faster, or trousers and shorts as well. So when you have the patterns, it's easy because you know you're either adding or reducing from the pattern, or you're just using the exact pattern to cut. Now focus on cutting once. Cut once. Once you know your markings very well, cut once. Cut everything cuttable once. I repeat, cut everything cuttable once. Your lining, your fabric, you're adding this fabric to this one, cut everything once. It's actually tiring to be going from your sewing machine back to the cutting table, from your sewing machine back to the cutting table. Okay, what I do is my cutting room is different from what I sew. So it gives me, I think, okay, for me to walk from here to there again to start cutting, that's a lot of work. Let me just cut everything. But that was the way I started. My cutting room was where I was sewing, and my rule was, once you're done cutting, if anything takes you back to the cutting table, it should either be to check your sewing, to check your, I mean, after ironing you want to verify some few things, or you want to lay it and do some work on it, not to go back and start cutting the sleeve after you have started sewing. No, try to cut everything once. Now when you're cutting, it makes your work faster. Don't go back and forth while you're sewing, while you're cutting and sewing. The number four thing is assemble all your sewing accessories. You see, the problem we have is, you want to sew, you know you need a zipper, you know you need buttons, you know you need fasteners, but you won't get them. When you now start sewing, you now start looking around for what you want to use. You're standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. I want to sit down, finish my work once, and get up and move on to something else. So be organized. It just helps you to be a better person. Be very, very organized. Organize your things well. Put them together. Don't just be scattered. This keeps you more professional. Put all your sewing accessories in a place that you want to use for one style. You know the style. You know what you want to use for it. Assemble it. You have your design planned already. So by the way, it should be assembled. Assemble all your sewing accessories in a place before you start. So it's handy. You can just bend over, pick it, and start using. After you do that, by the time you want to start sewing, the next step, number 5, is iron all the fusible interfaces. By fusible interfaces, I mean those interfaces that has gum, wording, stay, soft stay, paper stay, color stay, hard stay, whatever stay. The only interfacing you cannot iron before sewing could be color. The only fusible you cannot iron before cutting is the collar stay, because you have to finish the shirt or whatever you're fixing the collar on, measure that before you get the collar out. That's a part. But for every other fusible, iron them before you start sewing. Don't say I want to do the front first, go back to iron the back. All this standing up and sitting down breeze you out. You just get tired. You get tired. Somehow it's gradually gets you tired. You may not know immediately when you start sewing, but after you start sewing, just get tired of, and I'm tired, let me rest. And that's where you start resting. And I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. So how much do you want to make in a day? How many things can you make in a day or in a few hours? And how much will you make? This is how you start learning or mastering how to make money as a startup sewing, or when you start your fashion business. So when you iron your everything wording stay, then the sixth and the most important thing is your timing starts now. This is when you start timing yourself. Remember that we started from cutting, sketching, researching, sketching, and all that up to this point, number 6. And when your timing starts now, remember, timing is a skill you have to master. It doesn't come by magic. It doesn't happen by magic. It's not like because you've seen me sew something in 20 minutes that you want to finish yours in 20 minutes. No. Start by timing yourself from the moment you get to your sewing machine. Set a timer. Know where you started. If you stand up, pause the timer. If you had to do something, maybe pick a call or something, pause the timer, or try to calculate the time after and remove it. When you're done, let's say for example you're making a skirt. When you're done making the skirt, try to look at the time you spend sewing the skirt. If you probably spent 3 hours, that's a lot of time. Honestly, whether you line the skirt or not is a lot of time to spend sewing just one skirt. How much do you want to make in a day if you're to work alone, if you don't have anyone working with you? Or even when you have people working with you, how do you want to tell them they're slow when they're sewing, or they need to work faster and achieve more in a day? So when you do that, the next time you're sewing that particular style, you're going to set your alarm to 2 hours. You may not meet up with the 2 hours. Don't beat yourself over it. You may meet up with even more than 3 hours. Still time yourself to 2 hours again until you can hit the 2 hour mark. Setting your timing helps you mark your time, and it helps you take charge of know that I think I need to get more serious with my timing. I think I'm spending too much time. Really, how much do I want to make if I keep on doing this? So when you do that, the next time once you hit the 2 hour mark, voila, you're getting there. Reduce the time again to 1 hour 45 minutes. Once you hit that, start reducing. So you know you can finish this skirt at probably the fastest speed possible. Or with time, once you can hit about 1 hour, 1 hour is fine, it's fantastic. That means if you're working for 8 hours, you can finish approximately 5 to 8 skirts in a day. If you cut for 3 hours, you can finish 5 in the remaining 5 hours. So when you do that, you can still work on reducing the time if you want to, or if you're comfortable with it. Okay, I never get comfortable with timing. I still time myself. That's why if you give me a close I can tell you to be ready tomorrow, because I know I'm going to do it. And I try to mentor the people around me to teach them to do the same thing when they're sewing. So I started timing myself by that. I set my timer. I watched it till I finished that skirt in 1 hour. That means the next one must be 30 minutes, and that was how it started, and that is how it is still date. When you gain speed by sewing, after a while, you gain your speed by sewing, you're sewing fast. The next thing is to start timing yourself from the beginning of the cutting. So when you do that, you know that from my cutting table, I'm timing myself now to the point of finishing my sewing. That is your total job hours, because your job hour is not really when you started sewing. It started from when you started cutting. So combine all the things together and make it timed. If you can do this, I'm telling you, you will learn how to sew fast, how to sew pretty fast. Start today, start somehow. Let's see how it goes. If you come up with something you need to drop in the comments or in a mail for me, drop it and let me know how far this has helped you. It's really, really good, because you could find yourself in a country where you have to be the only one working for a while. You'll be used to it. You won't even find it tasking like I'm the only one working. No, it will be very, very easy for you. I wish you a very wonderful sewing experience. Until I see you some other time, I remain Aderonke Olubanje. My contacts are there. Feel free to send me a mail or a WhatsApp message or a DM. I'll be here to take your questions. Till I see you another time. Stay cool.